The morning sun painted the Afghan mountains in shades of gold and shadow as Sergeant Marcus Chun adjusted his position on the rocky outcrop. 3 months into his first deployment, the 24-year-old sniper had already earned respect among his unit. But today would change everything he thought he knew about the limits of long-range shooting. Marcus wiped the sweat from his brow as he peered through his scope at the valley below. The enemy compound sat like a dark stain against the mountainside, nearly 2.5 miles away. Most snipers would never even attempt a shot at this distance. The effective range of his rifle was supposed to be much shorter, but Marcus had been studying wind patterns and elevation charts for weeks. "Chun, what are you seeing down there?" whispered Corporal Rodriguez, his spotter, as he adjusted the high-power binoculars. Marcus focused on a figure moving between buildings in the distant compound. Intelligence reports had confirmed this was a high-value target, a bomb maker responsible for attacks that had killed dozens of civilians and several coalition soldiers. The man had been moving from safe house to safe house for months, always staying just beyond the reach of ground forces. "Target is mobile, moving between structures," Marcus reported quietly into his radio. "Distance approximately 3,700 meters. The radio crackled back immediately. "Negative on the shot, Overwatch. Distance is beyond effective range. Maintain surveillance only." Marcus studied the target through his scope. The bomb maker moved with confidence, believing he was safe at this impossible distance. Weather conditions were perfect: minimal wind, clear visibility, stable temperature. Marcus had been calculating trajectories in his head for the past hour, accounting for bullet drop, wind drift, and the rotation of the Earth itself. Rodriguez lowered his binoculars and looked at his partner. "That's nearly 2.5 miles, Chun. Even if you could hit something at that range, the bullet travel time would be over 4 seconds. The target could be anywhere by then." Marcus continued tracking the figure through his scope. "He's following a pattern, Rodriguez. Every 3 minutes, he stops at the same window on the second floor for exactly 15 seconds. He's checking something inside, probably communications equipment." The young sniper had always possessed an unusual ability to read patterns and calculate complex variables in his head. During training, instructors had noted his exceptional mathematical skills and natural understanding of ballistics. But no training exercise had ever prepared him for a shot like this. "Command, this is Overwatch." Marcus spoke into his radio again. "Request permission to engage. I have a clear shot opportunity with predictable target movement. Overwatch, distance is beyond your weapon system capabilities. Do not engage. Continue surveillance and report movement." Marcus looked at his rifle, a modified .50 caliber precision instrument capable of incredible accuracy in the right hands. He had spent countless hours practicing with this exact weapon, learning every quirk and characteristic. The rifle had never failed him, and today it felt like an extension of his own body. "Rodriguez, I need you to call the wind and elevation precisely. This shot is possible, but I need perfect data." His spotter shook his head. "Command said no engagement, Chun. Besides, even the best military snipers in the world don't attempt shots beyond 3,000 meters. The record for a combat kill is nowhere near this distance." Marcus watched the target complete another circuit of his patrol route. The bomb maker was clearly feeling secure in his remote location, unaware that someone was watching his every move from an impossible distance. The man's arrogance was about to become his downfall. "I've been studying this shot for weeks," Marcus said quietly. "The ballistics tables, the environmental factors, even the time of day affects the air density. Everything is perfect right now. The wind is steady at 4 miles per hour from the northwest. Temperature is 68 degrees, and the barometric pressure hasn't changed in 6 hours." Rodriguez began taking detailed measurements with his instruments. Despite his reservations, he trusted Marcus completely. They had worked together for months, and Marcus had never missed a shot when it mattered. But this was different. This was beyond the realm of what anyone thought possible. "Bullet drop at this distance will be over 30 feet, Rodriguez calculated. You'll need to aim at a point in the sky that seems completely disconnected from the target. Marcus made minute adjustments to his scope, compensating for the massive trajectory arc his bullet would need to follow. At this distance, the projectile would climb high into the air before beginning its long descent toward the target. He would essentially be shooting at empty sky and trusting mathematics and physics to guide his bullet home. The target appeared at the window again, right on schedule. Marcus controlled his breathing, feeling his heart rate slow to its normal pre-shot rhythm. His finger found the trigger as he aligned his crosshairs on a point nearly 40 feet above and to the left of his actual target. "Wind holding steady," Rodriguez whispered. "Pressure stable. Target movement predictable." Marcus knew he had one chance. If he missed, the sound of the shot would alert the entire compound, and the bomb maker would disappear underground for months. But if he succeeded, he would eliminate a target that had been considered unreachable by conventional means. The mathematics swirled through his mind: trajectory calculations, wind drift formulas, even the Coriolis effect caused by the Earth's rotation over the 4-second bullet flight time. Every variable had to be perfect, every calculation exact. Marcus took a slow breath and held it halfway, just as he had been trained. The target moved into position at the window, and the sniper began his trigger squeeze. The rifle would fire in exactly 15 seconds, sending a massive projectile on a journey that would rewrite the record books if it found its mark. Time seemed to slow as Marcus committed to the shot that would either make history or become a cautionary tale about the dangers of attempting the impossible. In the distance, completely unaware of the danger approaching from the sky above, the bomb maker continued his routine, confident in his safety behind nearly 2.5 miles of empty air. The trigger reached its breaking point, and the world changed forever. The massive rifle bucked against Marcus's shoulder as the .50 caliber bullet left the barrel at nearly 3,000 feet per second. The thunderous crack of the shot echoed across the valley, but Marcus remained perfectly still, tracking through his scope as he had been trained. At this distance, he would have over 4 seconds to observe his bullet's flight path. Rodriguez immediately began timing the shot with his stopwatch while maintaining visual contact with the target area. "Shot fired. Time mark now," he whispered into the radio, despite command's orders not to engage. The deed was done, and now they could only wait and watch. Marcus kept his crosshairs steady on the target location, his breathing controlled and methodical. Through his high-powered scope, he could see the bomb maker still standing at the window, completely unaware that death was approaching from the sky at supersonic speed. The man was examining some kind of electronic device, probably coordinating with other terrorist cells in the region. 1 second, Rodriguez counted quietly. Target still in position. The bullet was now over half a mile downrange, following its precise mathematical arc through the thin mountain air. Marcus had calculated the trajectory hundreds of times, but physics and mathematics were different from reality. Wind gusts, air density variations, even the temperature of his rifle barrel could affect the shot's outcome. 2 seconds. Target beginning to move. Marcus watched through his scope as the bomb maker started to step away from the window. The timing was going to be incredibly close. The man's predictable routine had given Marcus the shot opportunity, but human nature was making the target move at the worst possible moment. 3 seconds. Target moving toward interior. The bullet was now in its final descent phase, dropping rapidly toward the earth as gravity overcame its forward momentum. Marcus could visualize the projectile's path, a massive piece of metal following the exact trajectory he had calculated, carrying enough kinetic energy to penetrate vehicle armor even at this extreme range. For seconds, impact imminent. Through his scope, Marcus saw the bomb maker take another step toward the interior of the room. The man was almost completely out of the window frame now, and Marcus felt his heart sink. After all the calculations, all the perfect conditions, the shot might miss simply because of bad timing. Then, the universe aligned. The impact came exactly 4.2 seconds after Marcus pulled the trigger. The massive bullet struck the bomb-maker's center mass, just as he reached the edge of the window frame. The man simply vanished from Marcus's scope view, and a cloud of debris erupted from the building's interior. Rodriguez let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Holy shit, Chun. I think you actually hit him." Marcus continued observing through his scope, looking for any signs of movement in the target area. The window where the bomb maker had been standing now showed clear damage to the surrounding structure. Chunks of concrete and glass had been blown outward by the massive bullet's impact. "Confirmed hit," Marcus reported into his radio, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Target is down." The radio exploded with chatter as Command tried to process what had just happened. "Overwatch, repeat your last transmission. Did you say target down?" "Affirmative, Command." One round fired. Target eliminated at 3,700 meters. A long pause filled the airwaves before Command responded. "Overwatch, maintain position and continue observation. We're sending a team to confirm the kill." Rodriguez was already taking detailed measurements and recording environmental conditions for the official report. Military protocol required precise documentation of any engagement, especially one that had just shattered every known record for combat marksmanship. Wind speed 4.2 miles per hour from northwest, temperature 68 degrees Fahrenheit, barometric pressure 30.1 inches. Rodriguez spoke into his recording device. Shot fired from elevation 7,200 feet. Target at elevation 5,400 feet. Confirmed impact after 4.2-second flight time. Marcus finally allowed himself to relax slightly, though he continued scanning the compound for additional threats. Other figures were now running between buildings, clearly responding to the attack. The enemy had no idea where the shot had come from, and their panic was evident even at this extreme distance. "Chun, do you realize what you just accomplished?" Rodriguez asked, still staring at his instruments. The longest confirmed kill shot in military history was just over 2 miles. "You just exceeded that by more than half a mile." Marcus adjusted his scope to observe the growing chaos in the compound below. The shot was possible because of perfect conditions and careful preparation. Any sniper with the right training could have made it. No, man, this wasn't just training. This was something else entirely. I've worked with dozens of snipers, and none of them would have even attempted this shot. You saw something the rest of us couldn't see. Within minutes, other radio frequencies began crackling with reports from surveillance aircraft and satellite imagery confirming the target elimination. The bomb maker who had been responsible for dozens of civilian deaths was officially confirmed as killed in action. "Overwatch, this is Falcon Eye," came a voice from an orbiting reconnaissance aircraft. "We have visual confirmation of target elimination. Strike was precise and effective. Outstanding shooting." News of the impossible shot began spreading through military channels within hours. Officers who had spent decades in combat were struggling to understand how a relatively new sniper had achieved something that challenged the fundamental understanding of long-range marksmanship. Marcus began breaking down his position, carefully cleaning and securing his rifle. The weapon had performed flawlessly, delivering his bullet exactly where he had aimed it despite the enormous distance and complex calculations required. "Rodriguez, we need to document everything about this shot. Other snipers are going to want to understand how it was possible." His spotter was already taking photographs of the shooting position, wind measurement equipment, and rifle setup. The ballistics guys back at base are going to have a field day with this data. "You just proved that the theoretical maximum range for this weapon system is much higher than anyone realized." As they prepared to move to their extraction point, Marcus took one final look through his scope at the distant compound. The chaos below was beginning to settle as the enemy forces realized their leader was dead, and the threat was no longer immediate. "You know what the craziest part is?" Rodriguez asked as they packed their equipment. "You made it look routine, like shooting at 3,700 meters was just another day at the office." Marcus shouldered his rifle and began the careful climb down from their elevated position. "Every shot is routine if you prepare correctly and trust your training." Distance is just another variable to calculate. But even as he spoke those words, Marcus knew this shot had been special. Everything had aligned perfectly: weather, timing, equipment, and preparation. It was the kind of moment that defined careers and changed military doctrine. The two-man sniper team disappeared into the rocky terrain, leaving behind only brass casings and a legend that would grow larger with each telling. Marcus Chun had just rewritten the rulebook on what was possible in the art of precision shooting. Back at Forward Operating Base Phantom, news of Marcus's impossible shot spread faster than wildfire. By the time he and Rodriguez returned from their mission, half the base was waiting to see the sniper who had just rewritten military history. Senior officers, veteran snipers, and ballistics experts all wanted to understand how a young sergeant had achieved the unachievable. Master Sergeant Williams, the base's senior sniper instructor, was waiting at the equipment depot when Marcus arrived to clean and store his rifle. Williams had been shooting professionally for over 20 years and had trained some of the military's best marksmen. His weathered face showed a mixture of disbelief and professional curiosity. "Chun, I need to see that rifle," Williams said without preamble. "Command wants a complete technical analysis of your weapon system and ammunition." Marcus handed over his rifle with the reverence, due to a precision instrument that had just performed a miracle. Williams examined every component with the practiced eye of someone who understood the intricate relationship between shooter, weapon, and ballistics. "This is a standard M107 with minimal modifications," Williams observed, checking the scope mounts and barrel condition. "Nothing here that would explain a successful engagement at 3,700 meters. The theoretical maximum effective range of this system is half that distance." "The rifle performed exactly as expected, Master Sergeant. The shot was possible because of environmental conditions and precise calculations, not because of special equipment." Williams looked up from the rifle with something approaching respect. "Son, I've been shooting since before you were born. I've seen snipers make incredible shots under impossible conditions. But what you did today challenges everything we know about the physics of long-range shooting." Word of the shot had reached all levels of command. Within hours, Marcus found himself sitting in a briefing room filled with officers he had only seen from a distance. Colonel Martinez, the base commander, wanted a complete tactical debrief of the engagement. "Sergeant Chun, I want you to walk us through every aspect of this shot," Colonel Martinez began. "Our ballistics experts are having difficulty understanding how this engagement was even possible." Marcus stood before a room full of senior officers and began explaining his preparation process. "I spent 3 weeks studying the target location and environmental conditions. Weather patterns in that valley are extremely predictable between 0800 and 1,200 hours. Wind speed rarely varies more than 1 mile per hour during that time period." Major Thompson, the base intelligence officer, leaned forward with interest. "You were conducting unauthorized surveillance of that compound for 3 weeks. "I was familiarizing myself with the terrain and potential engagement opportunities, sir. The target had been operating from that location for months, but previous attempts to reach him had failed because of the distance and terrain difficulties." Captain Davis, a former sniper turned weapons specialist, studied the trajectory calculations Marcus had prepared. "These math equations are graduate-level ballistics computations. Where did you learn to perform calculations this complex?" "I studied engineering before enlisting, sir. The mathematics required for extreme long-range shooting are similar to the physics problems I worked with in college. Trajectory calculations, wind drift analysis, and environmental compensation are all mathematical problems that can be solved with sufficient data." The room fell silent as the officers processed this information. Marcus had essentially taught himself advanced ballistics theory and applied it in combat conditions with stunning success. Colonel Martinez reviewed the mission report that Rodriguez had submitted. "Your spotter confirms that you took precise environmental measurements for over an hour before taking the shot. This level of preparation is typically associated with much more experienced snipers. Every variable matters at extreme range, sir. Temperature affects air density, which changes bullet velocity. Barometric pressure influences trajectory. Even the time of day matters because air temperature varies throughout the day, affecting ballistic performance. Major Thompson pulled up satellite imagery of the shot location on his laptop. According to our analysis, your bullet followed a trajectory arc of over 60 feet above the line of sight between your position and the target. You were essentially shooting at empty sky and trusting physics to deliver your bullet to the correct location. That's correct, sir. At 3,700 meters, the bullet drop requires aiming at a point that appears completely disconnected from the actual target. The scope adjustments alone exceeded the normal range of the weapon system. The questions continued for over 2 hours as military professionals tried to understand how Marcus had achieved something that contradicted established doctrine about sniper engagement ranges. His methodical approach and mathematical precision had turned an impossible shot into a scientific calculation. Dr. Sarah Chun, a civilian ballistics expert brought in from the Pentagon, arrived that evening to conduct additional analysis. She was particularly interested in Marcus's ability to calculate complex variables without computer assistance. Sergeant, your trajectory calculations are accurate to within decimal points, Dr. Chen observed while reviewing his handwritten notes. Most snipers rely on ballistics computers for calculations half this complex. You performed these computations manually and achieved perfect accuracy. The principles are straightforward if you understand the underlying physics, Doctor. Gravity, air resistance, wind drift, and Coriolis effect all follow predictable mathematical formulas. The challenge is gathering accurate environmental data and performing the calculations without errors. Dr. Chin showed Marcus computer simulations of his bullet's flight path. Our modeling software confirms that your shot was only possible during a narrow window of perfect conditions. Any significant change in wind speed, temperature, or humidity would have resulted in a miss. That's why timing was critical, Doctor. I have been monitoring conditions for weeks, waiting for the right combination of factors. When everything aligned perfectly, the shot became possible. The analysis continued late into the night as military and civilian experts tried to understand the implications of Marcus's achievement. If a relatively new sniper could make kills at nearly 2.5 miles, it would fundamentally change tactical doctrine and engagement ranges for sniper teams. Master Sergeant Williams pulled Marcus aside as the formal briefings concluded. Chun, you realize that every sniper in the military is going to want to know how you made this shot. You've just proven that our understanding of maximum engagement range was completely wrong. The shot was possible because of specific conditions and careful preparation, Master Sergeant. It's not something that could be repeated regularly or under different circumstances. Williams looked at the young sniper with new understanding. Son, what you did today wasn't just about perfect conditions. You saw possibilities that none of the rest of us could see. That's not something you can teach in sniper school. As Marcus finally returned to his quarters near midnight, he found messages waiting from sniper instructors, ballistics researchers, and military historians who had heard about the record-breaking shot. The impossible had become reality, and everyone wanted to understand how a 24-year-old sergeant had rewritten the rules of long-range precision shooting. The rifle that had delivered the historic bullet rested in the armory, looking no different from dozens of other precision weapons. But Marcus knew that combination of perfect preparation, ideal conditions, and precise execution might never align again in exactly the same way. He had achieved something that would be studied and discussed for decades to come. Within 48 hours of Marcus's record-breaking shot, the story had reached the highest levels of military command. Pentagon officials were studying the engagement data, trying to understand the tactical implications of a sniper team that could effectively engage targets at nearly 2.5 miles. The shot had eliminated a high-value target that ground forces couldn't reach and airstrikes couldn't target without massive collateral damage. General Patricia Hayes, the Army's chief of staff, arrived at Forward Operating Base Phantom unannounced on Thursday morning. Her visit sent shockwaves through the command structure as one of the military's highest-ranking officers came to personally interview the young sniper who had achieved the impossible. Marcus found himself standing at attention in the base commander's office, facing a four-star general whose decisions affected hundreds of thousands of soldiers worldwide. General Hayes studied Marcus with the intense focus of someone who had spent decades evaluating military personnel under extreme conditions. Sergeant Chun, your shot has created considerable discussion at the highest levels of military leadership, General Hayes began. We need to understand whether this was an exceptional occurrence or if it represents new capabilities we could develop and deploy. Ma'am, the shot was possible because of specific environmental conditions and extensive preparation. I don't believe it could be replicated consistently under different circumstances. General Hayes reviewed the technical analysis that Dr. Chun had prepared. Our ballistics experts disagree with your assessment, Sergeant. They believe your methodology could be taught to other qualified snipers, potentially extending effective engagement ranges across all sniper teams. The implications were staggering. If Marcus's techniques could be systematized and taught, it would revolutionize military doctrine and provide unprecedented tactical advantages. Enemy forces who believed they were safe at extreme distances would suddenly become vulnerable to precisely placed shots. Sergeant, I'm authorizing the creation of an advanced marksmanship research program. You'll be transferred to our Special Operations Training Facility to work with our best instructors and ballistics experts. Your mission will be to determine if extreme long-range shooting can be developed into a systematic capability. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Ma'am, I'm honored by the assignment, but I want to emphasize that yesterday's shot required perfect conditions that may not occur frequently in combat situations. That's exactly what we need to determine. Sergeant, can you create those conditions artificially, or can you adapt your techniques to work under a wider range of environmental factors? The research program would bring together the military's most advanced shooters, ballistic scientists, and tactical specialists. Marcus would be working with people who had spent their entire careers pushing the boundaries of what was possible in precision shooting. Dr. Richard Foster, a former NASA engineer turned military contractor, joined the team to analyze the physics of extreme long-range shooting. His background in orbital mechanics and atmospheric modeling made him uniquely qualified to understand the complex variables that affected bullet flight at unprecedented distances. Sergeant Chun, your shot required you to compensate for the Coriolis effect, the rotation of the Earth during your bullet's 4-second flight time. Dr. Foster explained during their first meeting. Most military marksmen never encounter situations where Earth's rotation becomes a significant factor. The research team established a testing facility in Nevada where Marcus could experiment with different techniques under controlled conditions. Targets were positioned at distances ranging from 2,000 to 4,000 meters, allowing systematic study of what was possible under various environmental conditions. Master Sergeant Williams joined the program as senior instructor, bringing 2 decades of sniper training experience. Chun, we're going to push every boundary and test every theory. If extreme long-range shooting can become a reliable military capability, we need to understand exactly how to make it work. The first week of testing produced mixed results. Marcus could consistently hit targets at 3,000 meters under ideal conditions, but his success rate dropped dramatically when wind speeds exceeded 5 miles per hour or when visibility was reduced by atmospheric haze. The problem isn't the rifle or the ammunition, Marcus explained to the research team. At these distances, environmental factors become exponentially more important. Small changes in conditions create large changes in bullet trajectory. Dr. Foster worked with Marcus to develop more sophisticated environmental monitoring equipment. If we can measure atmospheric conditions more precisely, we should be able to calculate compensation factors more accurately. The team experimented with advanced weather monitoring systems, laser range-finding equipment, and computer-assisted ballistics calculations. Marcus worked closely with the technology specialists, but He insisted that the fundamental skill remained the sniper's ability to read environmental conditions and make precise adjustments. Technology can provide better data, but the shooter still needs to understand how all the variables interact, Marcus told the research team. There's no substitute for experience and intuitive understanding of ballistics. Captain Jennifer Walsh, a military psychologist, studied the mental aspects of extreme long-range shooting. Sergeant Chun, your shot required you to trust calculations that contradicted what you could see through your scope. That level of confidence in abstract mathematics isn't common among combat soldiers. Ma'am, engineering training taught me to trust mathematical solutions even when they seemed counterintuitive. The calculations were correct, so I trusted the results. The psychological evaluation revealed that Marcus possessed an unusual combination of analytical thinking and intuitive understanding that allowed him to process complex variables quickly and accurately. This combination of skills wasn't easily taught or replicated. After 3 weeks of intensive testing, the research team reached preliminary conclusions about the feasibility of extreme long-range shooting as a systematic military capability. The results were both encouraging and sobering. Extreme long-range shots are possible under specific conditions, Dr. Foster reported to General Hayes. But they require perfect weather, exceptional shooter skills, and extensive preparation time. This capability can't be deployed routinely, but it could be extremely valuable in specialized situations. The team had proven that Marcus's shot wasn't just luck or exceptional circumstances. With proper training, advanced equipment, and careful preparation, other snipers could achieve similar results under ideal conditions. But the technique required such specific circumstances that it would remain a specialized tool rather than a standard capability. General Hayes reviewed the research findings with intense interest. Sergeant Chun, your shot has proven that we've been thinking too conservatively about sniper engagement ranges. Even if extreme long-range shooting isn't practical for routine operations, it gives us capabilities our enemies don't expect. Marcus had transformed from an unknown young sniper to a specialist whose unique skills were being studied and developed at the highest levels of military research. The impossible shot had opened doors to new tactical possibilities that would influence military doctrine for years to come. 6 months after the record-breaking shot, Marcus stood before a gathering of the world's elite military marksmen at the International Sniper Competition in Fort Benning, Georgia. Representatives from allied nations had come to learn about the techniques that had made the impossible shot possible. The young sergeant, who had once been unknown outside his own unit, was now teaching master instructors from a dozen countries. The key to extreme long-range shooting isn't special equipment or secret techniques. Marcus addressed the assembled snipers. Success requires understanding that every environmental factor becomes critically important at distances beyond 3,000 meters. Small errors in calculation become large misses at extreme range. Colonel Sarah Mitchell from the British Army's sniper program raised her hand. Sergeant Chun, our ballistics experts calculate that your shot required compensating for over 40 different variables simultaneously. How do you manage that level of complexity in combat conditions? Marcus pulled up a detailed chart showing environmental factors and their interactions. Colonel, the mathematics appear complex, but they follow predictable patterns. Once you understand how temperature affects air density, how humidity changes bullet drag, and how wind speed varies with altitude, the calculations become systematic rather than overwhelming. The audience included some of the world's most accomplished military marksmen, many with decades of combat experience. Yet they were listening intently to a 25-year-old sergeant who had revolutionized their understanding of what was possible in precision shooting. Major Klaus Weber from the German military asked about the psychological aspects of extreme range shooting. Sergeant, at 3,700 meters, your target appeared as a tiny speck through your scope. How do you maintain confidence when shooting at something you can barely see? Major, confidence comes from preparation and understanding your equipment capabilities. I spent weeks studying that target and knew exactly when and where he would appear. The shot wasn't about seeing the target clearly. It was about trusting the mathematics and ballistics calculations. The research program that had grown from Marcus's original shot had produced significant advances in sniper training and equipment. New environmental monitoring systems gave shooters better data about atmospheric conditions. Advanced ballistics computers could perform trajectory calculations in seconds rather than minutes. But the human element remained irreplaceable. Dr. Foster had published papers about the physics of extreme long-range shooting that were being studied in military academies worldwide. Sergeant Chin's achievement wasn't just about exceptional shooting skills, Dr. Foster explained to the international audience. He demonstrated that systematic application of scientific principles could extend effective engagement ranges far beyond what anyone thought possible. The practical applications of Marcus's techniques had already proven valuable in combat operations. Special operations teams were using extreme long-range shooting to eliminate high-value targets that couldn't be reached by conventional means. The ability to engage enemies at unprecedented distances provided tactical advantages that were changing how missions were planned and executed. General Hayes had authorized the creation of an elite unit specializing in extreme long-range precision shooting. Marcus was selected to lead the training program that would prepare the military's best snipers for operations requiring unprecedented accuracy at impossible distances. The Extreme Range Sniper Program will train 12 specialists per year, General Hayes announced. These snipers will provide capabilities that no military force has ever possessed. They'll be able to eliminate threats that are beyond the reach of conventional weapon systems. Marcus found himself working with candidates who were already master-level shooters. Teaching extreme long-range techniques to snipers who had spent years perfecting their skills presented unique challenges. The psychological adjustment was often more difficult than learning the technical aspects. Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, a veteran sniper with 8 years of experience, struggled with the mental aspects of shooting at targets she could barely see. Sergeant Chun, everything I've learned about target acquisition and engagement becomes useless at these distances. I feel like I'm learning to shoot all over again. Staff Sergeant, extreme range shooting does require a fundamental shift in thinking, Marcus replied. You're not shooting at what you can see. You're shooting at mathematical coordinates in space based on careful calculations. Trust the mathematics, and your natural shooting skills will adapt. The training program combined intensive classroom study with practical shooting exercises. Students learned advanced meteorology, atmospheric physics, and ballistics engineering alongside traditional marksmanship skills. The curriculum resembled graduate-level science courses more than conventional military training. Captain David Park, a former MIT professor who had joined the military as a ballistics specialist, developed the mathematical curriculum. Students must understand the underlying science before they can apply these techniques effectively. Extreme long-range shooting is applied physics as much as marksmanship. After 18 months of development, the Extreme Range Sniper Program graduated its first class of specialists. These 12 snipers represented a new type of military capability, precision shooters who could engage targets at distances that redefined battlefield dynamics. Marcus watched with pride as his first students demonstrated their abilities at the graduation exercise. Targets positioned at distances exceeding 3,000 meters were being engaged with consistent accuracy. The impossible had become routine through systematic training and scientific application. Sergeant Chun, you've created something unprecedented in military history, General Hayes observed during the graduation ceremony. Your original shot proved that extraordinary achievement was possible. Your training program has made it repeatable and deployable. The ripple effects of that original 3,700-meter shot continued, spreading through military circles worldwide. Allied nations requested training for their elite snipers. Defense contractors developed new equipment based on lessons learned from extreme-range shooting. Military doctrine evolved to incorporate capabilities that hadn't existed before Marcus pulled that trigger on a mountaintop in Afghanistan. Years later, when military historians analyze a shot that changed everything, they would note that Marcus Chun had accomplished something beyond just setting a new record. He had demonstrated that careful preparation, scientific thinking, and systematic application of knowledge could achieve results that seemed impossible. The young sergeant who had once been unknown outside his unit was now recognized as the founder of a new discipline in military science. His name appeared in sniper training manuals, ballistics textbooks, and tactical doctrine publications used around the world. But Marcus remained focused on the fundamental truth he had discovered on that mountainside. With enough preparation, precise calculations, and perfect execution, human capability could exceed any previously established limits. The impossible shot had become the foundation for a new understanding of what skilled professionals could achieve when science and training combined with exceptional circumstances. The legend of the 3,700-meter shot would inspire future generations of military marksmen, but its real importance lay in proving that extraordinary achievement was possible for anyone willing to push beyond conventional limits through dedication, study, and unwavering commitment to excellence.